Yes! Here it is. Okay. You sure you're ready for this?
Hello everybody, welcome back to Theje's catalog. What I've been playing recently is Brutal Legend. Released in 2009 by Double Fine, the studio behind Psychonauts, Brutal Legend takes players on a tour of director Tim Schafer's Fantasyland, where musical inspiration becomes virtual reality. In Brutal Legend, you play as Jack Black's vision of himself. You're a roadie who's been transported via dark magic into a world where metal is the overtone in a land full of conflict. A whole new meaning is brought to the phrase Battle of the Bands as stages become war grounds and fans are your resource for training more troops during missions. The story and its plot points are highlighted with very entertaining sketches that are brought to life with enjoyable dialogue, lively animation, and charming humor. The voice talents of Jack Black, Jennifer Hale, Lemmy from Motorhead, and a surprisingly excellent performance from Ozzy Osbourne make for an engaging experience that pays for the price of admission on their own. Add to that a beautifully rendered overworld and meticulous attention to detail, and you have yourself a AAA package. The graphics, as I just stated, have a kind of fastidious structure that seeks to echo out every single memory of every single metal album cover art from the 80s. Dragons, demons, musical instruments, ground architecture, and automotive majesty combine into a world that revolves around metal being an overbearing spiritual force. Even though this game was released about 5 years ago, the textures and polygon count holds up pretty well. There are frequent glitches in facial animations and plenty of clipping when characters cross their arms, but all can be forgiven with the amount of cutscenes and other distractions. There is also a varied number of environs to trudge through, from wide open spaces to various caves, all with their own color palettes and even a weather system that seems like a rather pointless but still welcome addition. I especially oohed and awed at the multiple sequences where you drive through crumbling surroundings with active backdrops and plenty of debris. Just makes you wonder what the graphics would look like with some modern shaders and physics thrown into the mix. And that's where the praise stops.
Screw this place! Yeah.
Because now I'm going to get into the gameplay. The first few hours of the game introduce you to the basic elements of controlling blackjack, where you learn how to fight on your own and use some rather basic attacks to take down foes with multiple weapons. At this point, it feels like a bare minimum copycat combat system that will be perfectly okay to carry you through an epic storyline and imaginative universe. Unfortunately, it gets worse as RTS elements are thrown into the mix so that the realization of a world that involves all aspects of the music business can be put on display. It's a noble cause, but with bad execution. You're called to control a horde of diverse minions that have different roles in battle, from your typical melee grunts, ranged attackers, tanks, and even specialty classes. Sounds promising, right? If it had a better UI and leadership implementation, this game would have been epic. But what we're left with is a battle system that's too complicated for the provided control scheme. I had a plethora of issues with sending the wrong minion types to fight the wrong enemies. I also lost track of my units on countless occasions, didn't know where the enemy troops were being deployed to, and failed to successfully rally my troops without sending them to unnecessary deaths. It was as if I was playing the birth of the 3D RTS game, where no one had yet thought of an overmap or proper unit tracking. Just being the cognizance of an epic world is enough to merit the copying of the best elements of previous genre peers. But Brutal Legend failed to use Overlord's illustration of minion control. If it did, I'm sure this game would have been a lot better. I couldn't stand to use the current interface and gave up after losing a battle due to not being able to properly manipulate the frustrating control mechanics. Besides, by then I had my proper fill of cameos and visuals, and the storyline had just passed a climax. With no new elements to pique my interest and a sudden spike of difficulty to test my muddy understanding of a flawed approach to gameplay, I got bored and quit. And that's the end of that. For the bottom line, this game is equal parts epic representation and crappy interface. I believe it's worth trudging through if you're a fan of either Jack Black, metal music, or just plain being a manly man. It's not at all impossible to learn how to play, and may even become too easy once you've mastered it, and I'm confident that the rest of the cutscenes and storyline will make it all very worthwhile. But for the sake of the channel, I have to put it back on the shelf and move on to the next game.
But you must succeed where I have failed.
In conclusion, Brutal Legend is a steal of a deal for $15. Whether on sale or not, it's a fantastic addition to your catalog and is worth every penny. If it's ever on sale, it should be a no-brainer. This has been a review of Brutal Legend here on Theje's catalog. Thanks for watching, and you guys, have a good night.